Hello and welcome. Today we have a great presentation for you. We are going to be talking about Mission Financial Security. This is for our military and veteran audience, and we're learning about defending against today's scams. I'm Lizanne Lightfoot. I'm the VP of Marketing at GoVA Foundation, and I have with me a wonderful team from South Atlantic Bank in South Carolina. They are here to talk to us about topics like phishing attempts and cyber crimes and Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So if you have any questions or concerns about any of those topics, then we have the right squad here to present their expertise today. So I want to go ahead and introduce our guest speakers. From South Atlantic Bank, we have Wilson and Cheryl and Alex, who does appear on screen as Lindsay, but we'll introduce him in just a moment. So Wilson, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, please tell us a little bit about what you do at South Atlantic and the perspective that you bring to this conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And hello, everyone. My name is Wilson Wicker. I am a commercial lender for South Atlantic Bank. So my role entails working with our business customers and individuals as well, but handling on the commercial property end and working day to day as well on commercial deposit accounts and individual accounts as well. So my experience in the military, though I did not serve myself, I grew up in a military family. My dad and grandfathers serving in the military, and I also attended a military college for my undergrad. Went to the Citadel in Charleston, and very excited to be here.
Absolutely, and we are so grateful for the experience that you bring and for the perspective that you have after attending the Citadel. So thank you for joining us today. Cheryl is also here with us from South Atlantic Bank. Cheryl, tell us a little bit about your role in this conversation and what you do for the bank.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's great to be here. I'm Cheryl Beauvert. I am an anti-money laundering specialist here at South Atlantic Bank with about 15 years of experience in compliance and fraud throughout retail banking. Very passionate about educating my staff and customers about identifying emerging fraud risks and potential red flags. And then as far as my military affiliation, I am a family member of a retired Master Sergeant at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida, and I'm also the proud daughter of a Vietnam veteran.
That is so wonderful. I'm really excited about the experience that you have and some of your perspective that I think I've learned a lot from you in our previous conversation. So I'm really excited for our audience members to be learning from you today too. And then we also have Alex. I know that you are one of the veterans that we are highlighting in this call. And so I want to welcome you and invite you to introduce yourself and tell us what you do at South Atlantic as well.
Thank you so much. I'm Alex Castro. I'm the teller supervisor here in one of the branches in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And I'm also a sergeant in the U.S. Army Reserve. I'm part of the 7224. It's a medical support unit in Charleston. Here at South Atlantic Bank, we've been with the bank for 2 years now. I'm part of the RISE program. That is a talent program that we work with all the departments and we understand the ins and outs of the banking. And I'm very happy and honored to be here and be able to share a little bit of my experience and assist everyone as preventing fraud, especially.
Perfect. Well, we are grateful for your attendance here today.
Thank you.
Really excited to have you. Thank you. So all of you, I think, are bringing a great perspective on this depth of topic, and we really wanted to help our military and veteran members explore some of today's scams, some of the targeting that we're seeing right now that's going specifically to the military and the veteran community. And I know that, unfortunately, our community is a target for these activities. I say our community because I'm a military spouse myself. My husband was a Marine Corps veteran, served for 23 years, and the kids and I moved along with him around the world to all of his assignment stations. So I definitely have a lot of experience and perspective as a military spouse and as someone growing up in that active duty environment. And unfortunately, I know that a lot of our military members are targets of cyber crimes, of phishing attempts and scams. And we all know that they are happening, but we want to believe that that's not going to happen to us. So GoVA is presenting today to partner with South Atlantic Bank and provide some perspective for our veteran audience here. I wanted to highlight that GoVA Foundation is focused on providing financial education specifically to our military and veteran community. So we partner with banks like South Atlantic around the country to support members like yourself on our EDGE platform, which is a huge library of interactive digital resources. So everyone here on this call should have access to the EDGE, courtesy of South Atlantic's sponsorship, and we'll be going more into some of the tools that you can use to really follow up on what they've talked about today. So I want to start with the topic of phishing attempts. I know that we all know, that there's emails that are suspicious. We know that we shouldn't click on links that come through text messages. But I wanted to start by reaching out to Alex and asking you, what are you seeing that is specifically targeting the veteran and military community? And what phishing tactics are scammers using right now that we should be aware of?
So scammers are trying to get your information no matter what. So a lot of our information, especially in the military, is public knowledge. So if they do a quick search about your name in there, rank and all the stuff, you're going to see there is a lot of there, unfortunately. So scammers are using a lot of emails, texts, phone calls, especially using government entities like the DFAS, MyPay, even the travel system. They will send you links, calls. They will try to impersonate. They will try to do everything on their power to get access to your device or get some more personal information so they can go ahead and have access to your account, finances, and everything.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think a lot of our military and veteran families, we bank at the same financial institutions. We're using a lot of the same acronyms and terminology. And unfortunately, that makes us especially vulnerable because as soon as we see someone using those common military terms and language, we feel instant trust. We believe that, that these are well-meaning attempts to connect with us. So Wilson and Cheryl, I'd like to hear from you then, knowing that these very targeted attempts are out there. What are some of the red flags that we should be looking for, and how can we avoid making ourselves victims to these attempts?
Yeah, absolutely. So in those emails, you're going to get that sense of urgency. It's an act now, limited time offer, deadline approaching. So they create that sense of urgency. And they also use poor grammar. So you got to watch out for that. Those are the little giveaways. So you're going to notice language, grammar, spelling errors that just doesn't seem appropriate to the nature of the email. You're going to see things listed that maybe you weren't expecting, those unsolicited offers. Why am I even receiving this? In the fraud business, in those scammy text messages, you're going to see the word kindly respond to this email. Kindly click the link below. In fraud, we call it the kiss of fraud, is the word kindly. So those are some things to be aware of in those emails.
That's good to know. That's a good tip to look out for. Anything you wanted to add, Wilson?
Yeah, absolutely. So, another thing to piggyback off the emails that you receive. These folks really double check on when you look at the domain name and the actual email address that these emails are coming from. A lot of these folks are able to work around changing what the name might appear as when it first is received to you, but you need to make sure you actually go click on that drop down link, see where that see what the actual address is being shown on there, just to see if it's even legitimate. That's usually one quick indicator that we look at. And like Cheryl mentioned, the urgency piece is another huge one for us. So yeah, the biggest thing that we like to tell our folks is, were you expecting that email? So yes, like the unsolicited offers are always suspicious, but that's what we're trying to prevent there is that, hey, did you know that you were going to be receiving an email from so-and-so? Did you call to them before? Okay, then there's kind of a pattern or a path there of where it makes sense to be receiving that email from somebody. But if it's something completely random, asking you to click a link or sign something or do anything like that, please double check before you go and click on anything.
Just adding up a little bit about that. We're in the military, we know that everything needs to be done and needs to be done now. And that's like the sense of urgency that Cheryl's saying. A lot of the text messages will come and say, oh, we have an issue, or we have this offer, or this and that. And one thing too that I would like to add that is extremely important, no financial institution, no government institution will call you and ask you for personal information. They have already all your information file. If they call you, they'll just say, hey, we're having this issue, or we have this for you. Please contact your branch, or please contact MyPay, DFast, and act. They will never ask you to click on the link. They will never ask you for a debit card number. They will never ask you for full social. They have all their information. We have all the information. We don't need that. We just want to inform you. And also, majority of the stuff from the military, especially, comes through the mail form. You're going to probably receive a mail and say, hey, go to your VA, go to this portal, and solve your situation.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think there is definitely some vulnerability, certainly for our military families when we're going through PCS moves. We're making a lot of decisions and a lot of major paperwork changes very quickly. So that sense of urgency is a little bit more natural when it comes to a PCS move, and it can throw you off because things that you wouldn't usually click on or react to, you're more in like, I'm in response mode. I need to get these things done. And I think Wilson had a really good point about, were you expecting this change or this update or, this account request? Then all of those things, if you are going through a PCS move, again, you're changing all of your accounts and you're updating all of your residency information. So you're not thinking through each step of, did I request this, or is this a reasonable thing for me to fill out? So I think it's just in general, I've heard, looking for those spellings and typos in email addresses, it might say it's coming from a financial institution, but if the email address itself is a string of numbers and letters, that's not coming from the financial institution. The same with web addresses, you want to be looking at those links. And a lot of times people prefer not to click on the link that's directly in the message, but go to your financial institution or your, the website itself and compare those addresses first, see if there has been some type of change. So those are all great steps to just kind of slow down, take a step back and verify and look for those red flags before taking any action. So we also want to talk about the topic of cyber crimes in general. I think that's much broader. Phishing is obviously a targeted attempt to get specific data from a member. Wilson, can you tell us a little bit about what cybercrime is, how it begins with the targeting of an individual, and again, how are we seeing it specifically focused on the military and veteran community?
Yeah, so for the cyber crimes, there's several outlets that they're going through right now on trying to get a hold of your information, and some might not even be something that you may have done yourself. One of them is being debit card fraud. It could be something as much as you go to your local convenience store, your local gas station, or even a retail store, and think you might be swiping your card into something that is secure and safe, holding on tight to your information, and these folks are finding their way into those data breaches that you get your email from. It could be something like, for instance, a couple years ago where you saw the Equifax breach where everybody got a hold of your information. It's something that you didn't even do yourself. These folks are so smart, they're able to get a hold of this information. Going back to the debit card fraud, that is one that we really want to hone in on for our customers, where keep checking your account, check your account statements, look in there and just make sure that even if it's not once a day, once every other day or every couple days, just look and see, make sure all the transactions on there seem legitimate. Like you were saying, starting out small, most of these fraudsters, they will look at maybe doing a small transaction of like $1 or $2 just to see, did I get in? Did this transaction go through? And then that just opens up the floodgates for them there, where they decide to go to Walmart and buy a couple TVs or go order something on Amazon. And so next thing you know, they're wiping you out clean on what you have there. So debit card is one to look out for. Always just double check on there, and stay in contact with your bank too. If you have or if you have a transaction that seems suspicious on there, make sure you dispute it with your bank. And Oftentimes you can tell your bank you want to freeze your debit card there, and your bank should be able to help you with that too, to keep from anything worse happening for you. Another item that these cyber criminals get into are your online banking portal. And so them getting access into there, I mean, it's free reign for them there to go try and make any sort of online transaction, a wire, send money out. So those folks are actually making phone calls to you. Like Alex alluded to earlier, they're asking for personal information on you, and all this, everything that they're trying to get from you there is ways for them to get into your online banking access. So again, banks aren't going to ask you for this kind of information that is needed to get you into your account. That double authenticating stuff that you see out there when you're logging into like your online banking, the bank's not going to ask you what that number is that you just sent in that double authenticating. We know that number. So if someone's asking you for that number, that's usually not the bank that's asking you for that number. So be careful about those items. But those are really the two big cyber attempts that we're seeing right now in banking.
Got it. Yeah, it's so intimidating, but I think it's important to be aware that it's happening. And Cheryl, I really want to get your perspective on this topic because it's something you have so much experience in. So we know that the criminals are out there looking for access to our accounts, like the ways that Wilson was just describing. We know they're trying to essentially just get access to the money that we've saved away. So what are some warning signs that we can watch out for? And how do you know when you've become a target or when an account has been breached?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with the account takeover piece that Wilson was talking about. You know, once they gain access to username and password or your credentials or even just an email compromise, and suddenly they're in your bank account, you're going to see those micro deposits. You're going to see little test transactions to other financial institutions. So you have to check those statements. You have to pay attention to those emails that say, hey, did you recently log in from a new device? Or did you recently change your password or update your email address? You have to pay attention to those. Oftentimes you see an email, skim right over it and ignore it, but those are the ones to pay particular attention to. And then the bigger picture about taking your information is that identity theft. Soon as someone has your identity, it can go from bad to worse pretty quick. They can take out loans. They can open up new accounts. They can impersonate you and trick your family and friends into providing their information. So it does snowball. So one of the things that I recommend to our customers is to freeze your credit. I was recently at a fraud convention here in Myrtle Beach, and that was the number one recommendation to prevent identity theft, is to freeze your credit. And then freeze the credit of your family members as well. We don't think about that. You know, why should I do that for my 8-year-old child? Well, your 8-year-old child's going to want to buy a car someday. And the last thing you want is a surprise when they go to buy their car and realize they have bad credit because someone stole it along the way. So freeze your credit. It's a free service to you. And take advantage of those free annual credit reports. You got to look through those to see if there's any discrepancies. Even if it's just a misspelling of your last name that may have been used somewhere, it could indicate that there was identity theft along the way.
It's great to be watching out for. And if you do choose to freeze your credit, how would you know when to unfreeze it in situations where obviously you're trying to make a purchase or, you know, you don't want to be hurting yourself with having frozen credit? What would be the way to go through that?
Right. So the way that works is a simple call to Equifax or TransUnion. They have an 800 number that you call. When you freeze your credit, you're setting up a unique identifier personally to you. So all it takes is one quick phone call to say, hey, I'm going in. I'd like to refinance my house, or I'm going to be applying for a consumer loan. What is your identifying number? You give it to them, they release the freeze, and then when you're done with the transaction, put it back on. When you go to those lenders, what they're going to see if you don't, or if you've forgotten to make that phone call, is credit freeze on your report. So then it's just a quick phone call. The lenders can re-pull and then put it back on. So it's actually a pretty easy and free process.
Wonderful. It's great advice because especially for our minors, our military kids who have lived in so many different environments. And like you said, no one thinks about a minor's credit score until they actually go to make a purchase as a teen. And then you might see that there's been years of detrimental effect. And I do want to highlight for our users, obviously those 3 credit unions will give you a free annual report, but you can also do a free credit score check on the Edge, our digital platform that South Atlantic is sponsoring for our users. This is a soft pull. It does not impact your credit, and to check it, you'll get a complete report and see what are the factors that are influencing your credit score. And then there's a huge variety of resources with tips on how to improve certain credit scores or what choices to make along the way. So we absolutely want to have visibility and use of those resources. But it sounds like really with cyber crimes, their ultimate goal is to get access into the accounts through a variety of reasons. And Wilson was recommending to be careful with your debit card and look for any suspicious transactions, especially in those micro quantities. Cheryl had the great advice of freezing your credit so that you can know that there hasn't been any nefarious activity on your accounts. So I think that's wonderful. Alex, is there anything you wanted to add to that conversation, or are you ready to jump into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
It's just like keep watching, just keep on the lookout. When the military, if you have, like Wilson saying, like the difference on the emails, information, and all that stuff. If you're looking for any military information and you're not sure if you're getting the correct information to contact that institution directly. I would like to remind everyone we have the Military One source. It's a 24/7 source, and that's a great help for not for only like information, but if you need assistance in every single area, even like laws and all the stuff, that will be a great source out there as well.
Absolutely, yes. Do encourage Military One source for all our military and veteran members. Great resource. I've used them myself for years and highly recommend them. All right, I do want to make sure that we get to talk a lot about these topics of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Very hot topic in our community. Obviously, it's really become more prominent in recent years. But I think because it's such a popular topic, there's also a lot of uncertainty and insecurity about what makes cryptocurrency safe or risky. There's a lot of appeal to veterans that crypto can multiply and be a good investment over time. And so there's a lot of attraction to investing in it. But I think there's also a lack of education on what makes a good or a safe investment when it comes to this new type of currency. So I want to start off with Cheryl talking a little bit about what types of schemes are we seeing online and what should our military and veteran families be looking out for when it comes to these Bitcoin and cryptocurrency opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. Bitcoin's out there. There are Bitcoin ATMs at every gas station. There's multiple websites, platforms to invest Bitcoin. What the scammers are doing is they are infiltrating Facebook groups, social media groups, where military families, either stay-at-home families here on base, or our military service members overseas, they're going into those chat rooms, those group chats, those Facebook pages, and they're creating bonds and relationships. They're preying on vulnerability, isolation, and then once they feel confident that they have a relationship with you, they're going to start dropping hints. Hey, have you heard about Bitcoin? I recently invested. Here was my return. This is a great idea. You're going to want to try it. So while your guard is down and you're enticed with, making the biggest bang for your buck, you trust these people. And then because you're busy, because you're dealing with deployments, moving to another location, what they're doing is they're now offering to invest for you. So the next thing you know, you're trusting these people with your information, with your bank accounts, with, sending money and possibly seeing a return. Unfortunately, these scammers are taking everything. They're relying on your stable income. They're relying on your retirement packages. They're relying on your isolation to not keep track of these things while you're deployed or in the middle of a move. So Bitcoin is great. However, it's not regulated, and once it's gone, it's gone. So it can be lucrative, but super risky from just a scammy perspective.
For sure. And I think that's what makes it so, it's really just frustrating and nerve-wracking that our audience is targeted that way. But obviously, you can see how that isolation of, moving all the time or going through a deployment makes people more vulnerable than usual. So for Alex and Wilson, I'd like to hear your perspective on what is it about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin that can become a scam? How do those scams evolve? And understanding how that process works, then what should we be watching out for as the red flags or the warning signs that really make us step back and say, no, I don't want to engage with this because I know that this is dangerous. How can you tell?
So I think one of the biggest red flags, and then we have to pay a lot of attention like this, what Sherry is saying, is the guaranteed profits and the urgency on it. So Bitcoins is, Sherry was saying about like the Bitcoins ATM, majority of the frauds that is happening would be like, you have an account with the VA, they will call you, hey, I know that you're a part of like the VA, we have this offer for you right now, you need to do it now if you want to get like this extra income. If you deposit at this Bitcoin ATM $2,000 cash, we're going to give you right away $5,000, but it needs to be now, and they will try to keep you on the phone. They're going to try to make you go and do it without thinking. And I always like to joke a little bit about it, like investments is just like the military. It's the hurry up and wait. You're going to sometimes take the decision quickly on what you do, but the profits will take a long time to come. Right. You're not going to have profits right away. So I always like use that thought of process to understand what you're going through. Nothing will give you the return like the scammer says. You don't have to take these decisions right away. If you're doing an investment, you have to look stocks, Bitcoins, whatever you're doing, you have to look like what is more on your style, what you will adapt best to you, if that is like plans and all the stuff, how you're going to access the funds and all that. Just receiving a call and saying, hey, use this code, drop this money there, and wait for us to send the money back to you. Just like think, like how they going to send to you back the money if they did not get any information? You're not going to have any receipt. You're not going to have anything. So that's right. Just like a point out there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And yeah, going off of what Alex said too about the potential returns, I mean, all these new coins that they say that are coming out, that's going to be the next latest and greatest one. I mean, they can name these whatever they want to and throw a random name out there and say it's going to return 100% over the next 100% return over the next 2 months. We just tell our folks, if it sounds too good to be true, then it is too good to be true. There's just no way around it there. I mean, that's what they try to do, is give you the whole song and dance of saying that, I mean, this is the easiest way to triple your money here in no time. And no, it's just you gotta be on the lookout for those kinds of things and know that there's no secret sauce or magic that can happen there for this to work out. And and like what Alex said too, I mean, it's something where they request funds, you wire it to somewhere or send it to one of these ATMs, and yeah, unfortunately, once that money's gone, it's gone. It's not something that you can try to call the bank and say, hey, I went and wired this money out, but I haven't gotten this money back. It's like, well, there's nothing we can do. I mean, because that money, once it goes to that account, those guys are so smart that they're already moving that money to a whole different account within the next couple minutes over there. So yes, please hold tight to your money there and don't fall for anything like that.
Such good advice. And it sounds like really if we look at crypto as any other investment, it takes off some of the mysterious, the newness of it. And there's been investments around for a long, long time. And I think our military community is very flexible and willing to invest in a variety of opportunities. But of course, we want to do our research. We want to understand the returns, the risks, all of those things. And if you treat crypto like any other investment, rather than a immediate guarantee or any type of get rich quick scheme, then it really puts a lot more clarity into that decision making. So we certainly want people to understand that there's never a guarantee of return on any investment. And there should never be a layer of secrecy and urgency into any type of legitimate investment as well. So we want everyone to take their time, do their research, and don't trust people that you're meeting in Facebook groups or people that are calling you on the phone and asking you to take action quickly. So that is such a good piece of advice for our audience. I think another issue that we're really seeing a lot, unfortunately more in our veteran community, is the issue of check fraud. And this is evolving rapidly. There's been so many changes and unfortunately improvements from the scammers' perspective in recent years. So I do want to talk about how these check fraud schemes are really reaching out and impacting our veteran and military community specifically. So Cheryl, do you want to start talking about how these frauds evolve and what makes checks a risk when we're using them for legitimate payments and purposes?
Yeah, absolutely. Check fraud has been around for a long time. It's not going anywhere, despite evolution of Bitcoin or crypto or even just electronic payments. Check fraud's here to stay. So what we're seeing in our military communities are those work from home job scams, where you clicked on a link, you found an email, you read it in a chat group, this work from home opportunity. It's great for those stay at home mom and dads while their spouses are off. So what's happening is they're being sent a check. Here's to get you started. I need you to go out and buy your own computer, and I need you to send that gift card to our software manager who will, help you download what you need to start working. No legitimate job is going to make you purchase their equipment and their software. It's going to be provided to you. Another scam that we're also seeing in our military families is when they're on the move. They're selling things on Facebook Marketplace or listing on Craigslist. And what's happening is an overpayment scam is going to happen. Someone's going to offer you $800 for that dining room table, even though you were only asking for $4, because they want you to send the extra money to their movers who's going to show up. And you're going to hand over either the cash or send them an Apple gift card in advance for their services, for this mover that's going to take the dining room table off your hands. I know Alex is going to talk about how check processing works, but in the end, these checks end up not being good. And you send off money to people who have no right to those funds, and you get stuck paying the bill in the end.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear from Alex. I know that you interact with the public daily, processing checks and payments. So what are the issues that you're seeing with scammers? And talk to us about, elaborate, I guess, on that situation that Cheryl was saying, where you have a check in your hands, so you're depositing it to get those available funds. How does that play into a scam?
So every financial institution, they follow regulations, especially regarding to checks. So I'm going to give the example of South Atlantic Bank. If you come here at our branch with a South Atlantic Bank check, that is just like cash. Okay, because we have the information of the account here, we're going to be able to see funds there, and that's going to be instant. If you come to South Atlantic Bank with a different check from a different financial institution, we are a next day availability bank. The check being deposited in the account does not mean that the funds can show as available, but does not say that the check cleared. Mm-hmm. Some checks can take up to 7 business days to clear. So what they're doing is they will send you a check, like Cheryl was saying, for $800. They want $400 back, and you're gonna say, "Oh, that's a great deal. I'm selling my table. I have the $400 in my account. I'm gonna deposit the check, send the money, and that's it." And then you think you are all good. 7 days later, your bank is going to call you and say, "Hey, the check that you deposited was altered is fraudulent, there is no funds in the account, the money is going to be withdrawn the account. So now you're not $400 short, you are $1,200 short because the 800 bounce back and you already sent the 400 back. So you need to be very attentive to that. When you go to your financial institution, the bank says, oh, this check is going to have a little bit of a hold on it to be cleared. That's the bank trying to protect your account. It's not like the bank, oh, that's something that the bank is doing. They don't want to give me my money. No, we're trying to legitimate assist you. We're following regulations to protect you. Those regulations are out there to protect you.
Right. Okay. That makes so much sense that, I think it's really tempting when you have a physical check in your hands. It's money, you're depositing it. That money is immediately showing as an available fund in your account. So the thinking is that this was legitimate. It worked. The funds are there. And what you're saying is that there can be days and days of processing time before we learn that a check was actually fraudulent. And in that time, obviously, the additional fraud has already occurred. The payments, the gift cards, the corrections have already been made, and the fraudsters got what they wanted, and then we're left kind of holding the bag. So, Wilson, I know you've had some experience and perspective with this as well. Is there anything you wanted to add on what to be looking out for in this topic, or how can we really protect ourselves and avoid becoming victims of check fraud?
Yeah, another big thing that we've been having to deal with recently is something that we like to refer as check washing. So what we're seeing is that you yourself are handwriting a check out of your checkbook, and say you have a vendor or someone that you're looking to pay, and you stick it in the mailbox, and the U.S. Postal Service supposedly is supposed to deliver it to the place that you're hoping that it goes to. So we've run into issues where there are folks breaking into the big blue mailboxes that you find in your local town or at your local post office, and trying to get a hold of these envelopes here where folks have stuffed checks in the mail, and these folks are actually looking to take water, take a washcloth, take some cleaning spray, and actually remove some of the items that you wrote on the check. So, for instance, like the account name that you're going to be paying to, you may have written one out to your to a friend of yours or to a local business, and you go look at your account a few days later and see that check was deposited, but it was to a completely different name, a totally different person, and you're like, where in the world how did this happen? That doesn't even look like my handwriting. But to the other bank, they don't know that. So one of the things that we've really tried to hone in on for our customers is, if you can avoid handwriting a check and sticking it in the mail, please do whatever you can to avoid that as much as possible. If you find yourself where you have to write a check, best thing is, if that person is in town, please go hand deliver it to those folks. Or like you got to go pay your utility bill at your local municipality, go take the check over to there. Don't send it in the mail. These folks are just going in there, grabbing these checks, trying to wash them off and take them to another bank under an alias. A lot of these folks are hiding their own identity as well with these checks, and yet these checks are going through, and a lot of these folks, our customers, they might not go look at their account until too little too late there, after that hold's already been lifted on the check, and ends up going to someone that it wasn't supposed to. So please try to avoid sending checks in the mail if you can. That's something that we're dealing with constantly here.
That's so frustrating because I think, as a military family that has moved often, and when you move, you're paying off all your accounts at one location, and then a week later you're paying to start accounts at new locations, and a lot of that comes with either a final check payment or a check to open the account, a security deposit. We're writing a lot of checks when we move, and yes, sometimes there is the possibility to do hand delivery. But I think a lot of times, trying to transition into electronic payments is a safe way, a good alternative for families that might be at a distance and can't do that hand delivery option anymore.
Right.
But it's certainly for a certain generation that is comfortable and familiar with writing checks, how would you recommend they make that transition into no checks in the mail? Auto payments, electronic payments, how do they go paperless if they've become used to paying a certain way?
Right. Yeah. No. That's what we try to recommend. If not using the check, then what else? I mean, we highly recommend any of like your utility companies, your cable company, anybody that has the option to do online payment where you going over a secure network there to be able to provide your information, or doing like an auto draft setup. We do recommend those, and that's an easy way for just avoiding your money getting into the hands of someone that it shouldn't. So no, we highly recommend, if you start with a new company, inquire about that. See about that up front. Hey, can I set this up electronic, or can I set this up on auto draft? Those are some great options for avoiding the check and sticking it in the mail there.
For sure. Have those conversations early and often. Well, I want to summarize today some of these great tips that you all have been sharing with us. I think the South Atlantic team here has really provided a lot of perspective and information for our military community members. So just to summarize some of what we've covered today, we initially talked about phishing attempts, and we heard from all three of you about, the urgency and the act now and the pressure that comes with these types of outreach attempts. I think Cheryl's message was to just not click on links that are suspicious. Don't open those attachments. And Wilson told us to really look out for any spelling issues, check the email addresses, check the websites that are being shared, and not just the name the way it appears, but the actual string of numbers that come after all of those things. And Alex reminded us that, legitimate organizations are not asking for your password or your one-time code. The bank already has that. They do not need that. I've even seen accounts of scammers that are signing in from another location, and they're calling you and asking you to verify, oh, this attempt is from our server bank, or, from our IT center. So yeah, it says it's from a weird location, but go ahead and verify that on your device. Do not do that, because that's not safe for you or for your information. Anything that anyone wanted to add on the phishing topic, or did we cover all of that pretty well?
Yeah, just to reiterate, to do your diligence. If you weren't expecting it, do a little bit of research for sure.
Absolutely. And then the next topic was on cybercrime. Wilson started us off by talking about how sometimes this just happens with a traditional debit card payment. It's nothing that you've done in particular that was dangerous or unusual, but people are looking for access to your accounts. They're looking for your passwords. They're looking for any authentication information they can get. So the tips we heard there, I think from several of you reminded us that those micro payments, you need to be looking at your statements carefully. Often these cybercrime account takeovers are going to happen in really small test increments at first. So those are a real giveaway that something potentially is happening, and that you need to look into that first. And of course, no one mentioned it, but I think using unsecured Wi-Fi in general in public, just be very aware of any type of purchases or financial transactions you're making on a public server. Try to do all of your shopping and all of your bill payments at home, not while you're waiting at the airport. I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. Anything to add on the cybercrime and account protection topic?
I would just do a reminder. When you're using your debit card online, especially doing shopping and all that, remember your debit card is linked to your account. So if something goes wrong, they will have total access to your account. So I usually talk to clients, friends. If you're shopping online, use a credit card. It's way easier to dispute the transaction. It's safer. It's not linked to your account. If something goes wrong, it's a click shut down the app, the card is blocked, and that's it. There is no account linked to that. So that's a good tip to be more safe on the internet, purchasing and all that.
Yeah, I think all of those apps that have, an auto pay button where you have a card uploaded to that account, obviously using a credit card is just another layer of protection rather than a debit card. That's terrifying to have your entire account access available through, a shopping app. So for sure, we want to make sure everyone is staying safe there. And then I loved some of the perspective that you all had about our Bitcoin and cryptocurrency schemes that are going on right now. Obviously, it is a type of investment. There is no such thing as a low risk investment, and there's no such thing as a guaranteed return on an investment. So keeping those things in mind is certainly great advice. Cheryl talked to us about how strangers are, contacting us through online groups or gaining trust through messaging. So certainly don't make investment opportunities that have been shared by strangers. And I think Alex was talking to us about moving cryptocurrency through the ATMs, even when they are calling you up and trying to keep you on the phone and walk you through all of the steps. Do not move your own money at someone else's direction or discretion. Do your own research and think through these choices first. Do not let them walk you through and force you through a process. So the typical warnings to beware of urgency and pressure and secrecy, those are always going to be red flags of a scam rather than a legitimate opportunity. And Wilson, I think, reminded us that cryptocurrency is not insured. It's not a guaranteed currency. And so, unfortunately, those transactions are a lot harder to replace or reverse than something like a credit card payment that was fraudulent or even a debit card transaction. So anything that anyone wanted to add on that topic? I think you covered it really well. I'm excited to be able to discuss that with our veteran community because I think there's always so many questions on that topic. And then we wrapped up with check fraud schemes, which obviously have been around a lot longer than cryptocurrency, but are just constantly evolving. And so Cheryl explained how a lot of employment scams work with an overpayment or some type of initial check to get you started in a new job that you applied for online. And then these overpayments, Alex elaborated on how you might cash a physical check that seems to be legitimate from a company or an organization or an individual, and those funds will show up as available funds in your account. But available funds do not mean that they have been approved and cleared through the banking institution. So if there has been some type of overpayment or incorrect number on a check, never assume that you can correct that by looking at the available funds in the account. Do not send gift cards or additional checks to make up for that difference. You can always ask someone to write another check with the correct amount or to pay in a different way. And I think Wilson reminded us to just be wary of any types of unusual requests that are forcing you into an unusual payment method. Most individuals and legitimate companies I have worked with have never asked me to pay for things through gift cards or through, the unusual. Think about the typical way that you make payments. And if something sounds unusual or it sounds too good to be true, then please use your common sense and don't follow through with it. So any final thoughts on our check fraud schemes that are developing in our community? All right, excellent. And then I think South Atlantic does have some tips on how to follow up if you think that you have been targeted either by one of these types of scams or fraud or even identity theft. Cheryl, would you like to speak a little bit? I think this is your area of expertise about what to do if you've been victimized by one of these crimes.
Yeah, the bullet points on the screen is a great summary of where I would direct our customers. The biggest thing is to use your resources available to you. Here at South Atlantic Bank and every financial institution I've ever worked for, we have the phone numbers, we have the websites, we have the reporting agencies, we have connections with the Federal Trade Commission on how to report incidents of fraud or potential identity theft. So we have those resources ready and available to you if we get into a situation where we have to recover from a fraud event. You have Military OneSource, GoVA, you have all the resources available to you. So I strongly encourage that, one little fraud event can unfortunately snowball to many other things that can go wrong for you. So to reach out to your financial institution and use this as a resource as quickly as possible. Don't be embarrassed. We've heard the stories, but we also know how to fix it and correct you and get you back on the right path.
I think that's such good advice. I know it can be overwhelming and intimidating, and there's a lot of shame and judgment when people feel embarrassed that they've become victims of these crimes. And I think it's so important to remember that, Wilson was pointing out earlier, sometimes it's nothing that you in particular have done. Sometimes it isn't something you could have prevented. You didn't necessarily make a silly or a foolish choice. These things happen. And I think it's important to know that the bank is there to support you and to help you through that process. And obviously they're going to have more knowledge and resources than any one individual. So I certainly encourage our users to turn to that financial institution for help and support and to get the right answers. We do have resources on the edge, but most of them are pointing you to your financial institution, to the FTC, those official organizations. And then here are some of those resources as well that, certainly a bank would direct you to, but we'll be sending these out to our viewers as well so that you can see the links and the contact information for the CFPB, for our military consumer programs, and for the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission. Anyone want to elaborate on which one you should use for which types of fraud?
Listen, I will be adding another link for you to add, and that's to do with our cybercrime. IC3.gov is where we direct our customers and consumers who have experienced cybercrime, email account takeovers, cryptocurrency, to report their fraud events to IC3.gov. That's the FBI's cryptocurrency task force.
Thank you so much. I'll be sending that link out as well then in follow-up for all those who registered for this event today, and then you'll have access to this presentation as well. So I just want to take a moment to thank all three of you for your presentation today. You're such a wealth of knowledge and experience. All of the diverse background that you bring to the conversation, I really appreciate. And we're just so grateful that GoVA has been able to partner with South Atlantic Bank to provide this information to our viewers today. And I want to thank you for your time and all that you've contributed to this conversation. So thank you so much.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Of course. And we will have follow-ups. We'll have additional opportunities to connect with the South Atlantic community. They're going to be a presenting sponsor throughout the year in 2026 here. So I don't know if we'll see these exact representatives again. It would be my honor to have you back on, but we want to tap into the depth of your South Atlantic employee base as well. So stay tuned and posted. We will be informing you about upcoming events and additional topics that South Atlantic will be presenting to us. But for today, this has been our presentation with GoVA Foundation and South Atlantic Bank covering today's scams and fraud. So thank you so much to all who have viewed.